And everybody, welcome to Joe Slick Live in the Rabbit Hole. I got to open up chat. There we go. Um, Over here on twitch.tv/Joe Slick Live. And tonight we're guest with New Brunswick, Canada guy, better known as Canuck. Easier for me to say, that is. And our boy Luke, he might get here and he may not. He went fishing today, so we'll see. And he's probably eating some supper or something right now. And so over there on twitch.tv, Joe Slick Live, welcome to tonight's Rabbit Hole. I'm starting the recording there. And we're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, and we are on Facebook. So how's the volume out there on Twitch land? You can tell me if we're 5x5 or if we're low. I don't know if we are or not. Oh, I can turn it up just a hair. I hear you, Canuck. I hear you fine. A little bit better? Okay. All right. So they can hear us over there pretty well. I just turned up my mic and turned you up too there, Canuck. So yeah, happy Saturday. Wait, is it Saturday?
Yeah.
It is. I don't know what day it is. We were on last night, weren't we?
Wednesday night.
Well, I mean, I felt like I was on all day night last night. Oh, I was on the Luke Clemmer's The Shit Show.
Yeah.
So yeah, on there for a couple hours last night.
Yeah. So you did last night for 2 hours too.
Yeah. Well.
No wonder you needed a nap.
Yeah, I slept 9 hours. I woke up real brief and then went back to sleep. So yeah, and then I'm sliding right now. But I studied what we were doing here tonight for about 2 hours this late morning, early afternoon, and just looking up different files. I go, man, there's a lot of data on the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. But it's kind of a semi-new subject for non-geologists and non-professionals. And we're going to talk about a couple of different key terms called inner borderland, outer borderland, and the southern borderland. And that stems from three different kind of sectors in Southern California, northern Baja California, that basically go from the Traverse Ranges up in Los Angeles, which is where we started our, I don't know, like 6 different videos ago or vlogs ago, and on the Santa Monica Fault system. Yeah. And we're going to be going south again and a little bit away from shore. We did last week or Saturday. Wait, Wednesday. I don't know what day it is. we did a very, very interesting, super deep dive into the Inglewood Rose Canyon fault systems with their many splays and many faults that make up those fault zones. 8 different fault zones that I counted, not counting the ones down in Mexico. In the Vizcaíno Basin forearc, that's way down, like a huge bay that's just about halfway down Baja California. And we only came up into the San Felipe crack, Ensenada crack, I would call it all the time. Goes from TJ to San Felipe. Some cross faulting that goes through the peninsular ranges there in northern Baja and southern Cal, San Diego area. And we talked about that last time. And Luke's just coming in. Hey, good evening, Luke.
Hey,
and so
Hey.
What we're doing is we're going to explore the inner borderland, which is just a little bit exterior from the the Inglewood Rose Canyon fault. So I'm going to turn it over to Luke, or not Luke, but Clem, and he's going to give you your opening statement. So go ahead, Clem, and Luke, say hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. How was fishing? Did you do good?
Yeah, we did all right.
All right.
They weren't jumping in the boat by any means, but we had to work for them. But we got a.
You didn't get shut out then.
Right, exactly.
Any day you don't get shut out, you're catching.
Yeah.
All right. So on your screen, Clem, is a map, and this is going to be pretty intense. Going to be a lot of information, and we started at 6:00 tonight due to this information. It's not new. It's been around for, geez, I saw letters back in the 70s. So it's not new. But Canuck has found some new articles, and he's going to illuminate us with his brilliant mind. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
Do it.
Okay, so this map we have up now is basically to set us up for everything else, because it's explaining the areas that we're actually talking about tonight. So we're going to be looking at a bunch of different faults, but when you go to look up all this stuff, you have to understand what terms they're putting it in, because they don't call it offshore SoCal faults. That's not how they do it. They divide it up by what they call it the California continental with the B borderland, basically. So to simplify that, it's basically all the faults from the coastline out to the edge, which is the patent escarpment on that map, which is where the continental shelf is for the Pacific. So it's basically 0 to 250 kilometers out. So that's what the California continental borderland is. Now, they divide that into two things. The inner borderland, that's where 100 kilometers out, so 0 to 100 out from the coast. And the faults we talk about tonight will be the ones that are mainly the inner borderland, because we probably won't get to the outer ones anyway, because there's so much info. But the outer ones are from 100 kilometers out to 250, which we probably won't get to those. But like when we're in the studies, that's what they refer it to. They'll say this fault is in the inner borderland or the outer borderland or whatever. And the southern, they had... Yeah.
ICB and OCB, right?
Yep. So when you hear them talking about that, that's what it means.
Let me ask you a question. Is there a distinctive difference in the fault itself between the inner borderland and the outer borderland fault?
No, they're all basically the same thing, because they're all northwest to southeast right lateral. Same as all the other ones we were talking about on shore. The only difference is they're out underwater. But they're all the same. They work the same as Elsinore or San Andreas or San Jacinto or Newport, Inglewood, Rose Canyon. But some of them do have thrusting as part of them, especially the ones that are right next to the islands, but that are out there, the Channel Islands.
Right.
So they figured that out, because that's basically how those islands got there in the first place. So, and like San Clemente which is the southernmost Channel Island. They're the one that the Navy firing range is on. That's they found all sorts of volcanic stuff on that, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's about right above the 1951.
Yep.
San Clemente Island.
Yep.
Okay.
And so another reason why I wanted to show this map is because they have all the notable quakes, like above 5 on it, starting back in 33, which of course was the Long Beach quake that we talked about in the last episode. So it's given all the different ones there. There's 1, 2, 3, 7 of them. No, yeah, one, yeah, 7. We already talked about 2 or 3 of them before on there, but it's given like the locations where they were inside, whether they were like in the inner borderland or the outer borderland. See, there's even one that was in 2012 that was outside of it. So technically out off the where the escarpment is. So I thought that was interesting because that 2012 one was the same year as Haida Gwaii 7.8. So I thought that was interesting because I don't remember reading about that one before, but I saw it on this map. And the 86 one was the Oceanside quake, which we talked about that in one of the other episodes because it was like the year before the Whittier quake and Superstition Hills. And I think in 86 there's also a Palm Springs quake too, near the San Andreas. Now I never looked up all those other ones, but
so
we'll worry about that later.
Quick question. The reason we're kind of like going through all these fault systems is we're trying to lay the foundation for how the Earth is moving in this kind of arena, and where their earthquakes are happening, and we extrapolate that and look elsewhere in time as well as in location, and see if there's something else that's like something else that's creating these quakes, or would you say like a snowball, adding to the snowball for the quake to happen, so to speak. So like kind of like a prequel quake or setting the stage for another quake. So we look through history, and we do it pretty limited. I think Canuck, if I'm right, we usually do about a year on either side, and we try to understand the Earth's movement in that kind of relation. Otherwise, I don't think our brains can handle 5 years, 10 years, 20 years saying, "Oh yeah, this led to that." It's super complicated, and so. If we did have truly triple decker brains, yours is pretty close to it. Yeah, and you haven't fallen on your head too much.
No, I only crashed into a wall once with my head, but other than that,
I've done it so many times. They get dense. But what we're trying to do here is extrapolate from this detailed information and apply when an earthquake does happen, or when we see a quake along a certain kind of, for lack of a better word, lineament, or in an area that we say, okay, let's start watching this area to see if it's correlating like we've seen throughout history. Now, we're not just talking one-time events. We're talking multiple times events. This happens, and wow, we see this, and sometimes they're pretty far, like on the other side of the of the plate. Like we were watching what was happening in the North Atlantic. How many times did that come up in our discussion on the last one?
Yeah.
That was shocking. That the North Atlantic would quake, and then all of a sudden something would happen over here in the West, and it's like, wait, what? And then we wouldn't see it, traverse across the plate, but we'd see the effects of it on this end. So it's like, did it go all the way down, come back all the way back up? And we saw, in a lot of cases, we saw the Caribbean plate rocking and rolling, and when it did, we saw events happening up north in California and all the way up into Alaska. So it's like, there's a system, and I think what we're trying to do is identify the system. Not so much, okay, there's a quake in 1986 right off the shore, Oceanside. All right. What does that help? It really doesn't. But if you bring it into the conversation that we can add it to a series of earthquakes and we can see movement of the plate, much like I bring up the chicken leg all the time. That's nothing other than watching the Pacific plate grind itself up against North America, and you can see the effects of it. That's all the chicken leg is. So when I say chicken leg, it means all that. It's nothing like, it's nothing fancy, just a word, a funny word. Because I think a little humor helps with some of this stuff. Goes away, go to sleep. It's like, well, what'd you say? But I think we gotta, when you do these studies, I think you have to put them in context to the larger story, which is we're searching for the mechanisms and the understanding of, and it isn't just earthquakes. It's sometimes solar activity. Sometimes it's physical storms. And all these things are interrelated to a system that's invisible to us. Like gears in a motion. Yeah. Eden, exactly. So that's what I love about what we're doing. And I want to put that into the mix in our discussion. Yeah, we're going to get down into the weeds here a little bit. We're going to try to explain what's going on and what we're seeing. But I mean, if you're not interested, if you're just like if you're just like a Karen out there, all you see is what's on your nose. You can't see beyond it because you're in La La Land in your own world. But once you start to see that there's a larger system happening here, and it's not random, there's events that create these events. And because these other events, they're invisible to us. And we're trying to color in the lines, draw a little bit. You have to kind of think outside the box. Yeah, Eden. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to put these things in kind of in context to the paint board that we're painting a picture with. And we're using different types of brushes and crayons and oil paints and sometimes we're just throwing mud on the wall and seeing if it sticks, and playing with the mud, finger painting, and then but we're searching for the mechanism behind all this. I think that's what we're after, and I know that's what's got me riveted to every one of these episodes, and to seeing, hey, wait a minute, we're not forecasting, so get that out of your mind. We're looking at the invisible system behind the scenes that the earthquakes are showing us. See, a lot of people, start with earthquakes and then that's it. They don't go any further. But we're looking for the system behind.
Yeah, because you have to understand the geology and how it's working, right? Because the quakes happen on faults, so you have to understand the faults.
Correct.
And how they work and what their dangers are before you can figure all this stuff out, which is what we're trying to do.
Right. And interesting about this map that we're looking at here, you see an arrow from North America up on the top right-hand side, and you see an arrow on the left-hand side where it's Pacific, right?
Yeah.
That's the directions of the plates in Southern California. That's that's not the same as you go north.
Yeah.
Most people don't, they always think that, Southern Cal is going straight west or going northwest. It's not. Much of it is going due south.
Yeah, because all these faults are basically, that we're talking about, in from San Andreas are doing the same thing as San Andreas does. So they move the same way, right?
And these systems begin out in the Pacific and go inland. I saw Arizona full of it. And I've got an image to show you also about Arizona, some of the things. But once we get into this a little bit different, I'll jump in for you. But so go ahead and talk about the. Where do you want to start? You want to start in the north of it, or you want to start in the south?
Well, I'm going to start in the north, and I'll list the ones across because we're only going to do 4 at the top going across. Because we do any more than that, we'll get way bogged down.
Now, will this page do us? This picture do us justice?
Yeah, I'm just going to explain what ones we're going to do first, and then after that, I'll go into each one. So we're going to start the ones closest to. Bring that one up. That'll work, Joe. Because we can make it bigger so everybody can see it.
All right. I will. Window.
So we're going to talk about Huntington Beach first, which is the one that's closest into the coast. Then after that, we're going to talk about Palos Verdes again. We already talked about that a bit in the previous episode, but we're going to go into more detail this time. Then the next one out from that is the San Pedro Basin Fault, so we're going to talk about that. And then the next one out from that is the Catalina Fault. And those are the 4 at the top we're going to cover tonight. But I'm also going to go down, and the ones that they found connected to them, I'm going to talk about them too. But those first 4 we're going to start out with tonight.
Okay, where do you want to start? San Pedro?
No, I'm going to do Huntington Beach first.
I got you right here, Huntington Beach. That's this green one, everybody.
Yeah. And I'm just going to explain how it connects from that picture that we're looking at. So from all the studies they've done on it, they found out that it is basically one of the faults that connects between Newport Inglewood, which we talked about in the last episode, and Palos Verdes, which we talked about before. Now, in all the stuff I read just on Huntington Beach, they also call it Thumbs too, so they call it Thumbs Huntington Beach. Now, Thumbs is the 4 islands that the oil companies own off Long Beach. So they put all those names together because a lot of these studies relate to the Wilmington oil field and all the stuff that the oil companies have done out there for studies.
You see them right here.
Yeah, so that's where they got the name from. And of course, it's that fault goes right beside them. But anyway, to explain it more, they don't have a specific, like, what size quakes can be on Huntington Beach. They group it with, like, all the other faults. They're there too, so they include, because it's connected to Palos Verdes and it's connected to Newport Inglewood. So they already know that Newport Inglewood had the 1933 Long Beach quake. So
about where Huntington Beach comes in right here too.
Yeah, so
Brookhurst Street.
So they know Newport Inglewood can go like
Brookhurst Street. So that quake right there.
Yeah, mid-7. So they talk about that, and the new studies on Palos Verdes say it can go 7.8. Now, yeah, so there's a reason why they say that, which that's what I'm going to explain next, and there's a study that shows how they all connect, and I'm going to bring that up when I get done explaining it. So in one of the other episodes, we talked about the Wilmington Thrust Fault and the Compton Thrust Fault. Well, they're in between Palos Verdes and Newport Inglewood, basically. So the Huntington Beach Fault cuts right across underneath these 2 other thrust faults, which they also refer to them as anticlines, because that's where the oil field is. So that's how all that stuff got lifted up.
Explain anticline. I know it bogs you down, but explain anticline. What do you mean by that?
Well, when they talk about an anticline, it's like a slope, right? How the fault goes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually 2 that are under here that go up under that. You'll understand it better when I put up the study and we look at the diagrams they have.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the reason why they think it can go so big there, because all the 2 anticlines, thrust faults are there, plus they're basically in between Palos Verdes and Newport Inglewood. And Huntington Beach crosses over right through the center of it. So I'm going to bring up a study next
So you can see an anticline, symmetrical anticline, asymmetrical anticline, overturned anticline. See, it's a fold in a rock that's shaped like an arch. That's going to be key to understanding what we're talking about here in offshore now. Okay, the uplift, the axial plane, the uplift. Okay, that's going to be part of what we're talking about. An anticline is a structural trap formed in folding a rock strata into an arch-like shape.
Yeah.
Right. Syncline is the downdraft. The concave, right? The convex up shaping of the rock. All right. All right. So we go back into what you got going on. You going to share a link? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I just put it in. So this is a study from 2019, and it's talking about the Wilmington thrust fault, but in it, it shows pictures of like how it works and all that, and it shows like the faults as the borders of it and all that stuff. So I'm going to go into that one and explain it a bit more.
This the one you want?
Yeah, but that's the first map. But there's going to be other ones in there we'll use, but I needed to do that one first.
Okay.
Okay, now I got to make it bigger on my end so I can read it. Okay, a minute now. Now I got to scroll down to
the Huntington Beach anticline turns into the Wilmington blind thrust fault. And what we learn about blind thrust faults, it's one fault that overrides another, and it's under the ground, it's hidden. That what makes it blind, from what I gather. Is that your take as well?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read some of the introduction to this because it kind of explains where everything is. Yeah. So it's only 2 paragraphs. It's not too much. So several recent highly destructive earthquakes on thrust and reverse faults, and it gives examples: 1994 Northridge, 1999 Chi-Chi, Taiwan. Like, it's given examples from other places where there's thrust faults. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll just say probably ones that we've heard. The Nepal quake, which 2015, 7.7, and the Kaikoura one, which was in 2016. So these were all on thrust faults. They figured that all out now. So what they're trying to do now, I'm going to summarize what they say in here. They're trying to figure out all the thrust faults that are in offshore California that could be a threat. So the next paragraph, the Wilmington blind thrust offers an extreme example of the ambiguity in hazard assessments of blind thrust faults. The Wilmington Fault is a large northeast dipping blind thrust ramp that underlies the southwestern Los Angeles basin in California. We consider this fault as part of the Thumbs Huntington Beach oblique slip system. Displacement on this fault formed the overlying Wilmington anticline, which provides a structural trap for one of the largest petroleum fields in Southern California. Although the larger Thumbs Huntington Beach system has been known for decades, the Wilmington blind thrust is not currently included in state-of-the-art earthquake hazard assessments. And this reflects a long-held view that the fault became tectonically inactive in the late Pliocene. But now they've found out that's not true. Moreover, disagreement persists because this study was from 2019 is when it was released, so there's been more since then.
Yeah, more information.
Yeah. So I'm going to go down and start with the maps here next.
And hold on here. Remember what we said about anticlines, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to share a screen real quick. Somebody just lost this, huh? Share screen, window, right here. Okay. Yeah.
Now that first map, I'm just going to talk a bit.
That's
a little bit like what they did to figure all this stuff out.
This is
So-
this is what a blind thrust is, everybody. It's a fault that comes through, and then it's behind. This here is the anticline, okay? So this is all being lifting up, right? But it's a blind. It's on the backside of this uplifting. Okay.
and there's like you can't see it at the surface.
Correct.
Now you can see the Huntington Beach fault, and you can see the Palos Verde one because they've done stuff underwater where they could see that, so they knew those were there. But now, since they've done all the new stuff, they can actually see where the anticlines are and the thrust faults with all.
This is the anticline, and then this is the blind thrust back here. Okay.
And that's what this first little map is saying. It like on it. If you were zoomed in on it, you could see it has the oil wells marked. It has the anticline trend, the surface faults that you can actually see, and then various cross sections of it. And then they did like a 3D seismic survey on it, and then they put 2D seismic lines on it. So when they were actually doing the thing, they could break it into sections or whatever. Now it's really the next section that shows like how it's angled,
All right.
which is all pretty colors. They
There
have
you go.
it blue and pink and all that stuff. So that's what it looks like under the water.
Yeah, see how it drops down there? It's this portion that he's speaking about right here.
Yeah.
Here's the anticline. It's the uplifting of the ground from down below, deep down below. It's lifting up, right? And then it's this drop. It drops down on the backside. That's what we're referring to right there. And then you can see, and it's because it's blind. It's under the ground. They don't see it until they use tomography and make a ping sound, and they listen to it as it gets through all the different layers. How it responds coming back, showing kind of like a sonogram, showing what's been going on underneath the sediment that's up above, the upper Pliocene, the Miocene, and you can tell the Mohonen and the basement rocks. So, and you can see the way the fault works. And that's very visible in some of these images that are displayed in the in the deal here. So go ahead, or I don't mean to.
Yeah, and so the next part, I'm not going to read too much of it. I'm just going to explain it. Okay. Evidence for reactivation of the Wilmington blind thrust. So what this study is doing, they're basically saying that it should be considered that it's active now, based upon the stuff that they found from this study. Now, there's been other ones since then, and they're still working on it. And USGS has to decide by next year, I think it is 2025, if they should include this one in the offshore hazard threats. Now,
okay.
Yeah. Because they review them like every 5 years. So when they find information about a new one, usually the blind thrust ones, they wait a while until there's enough studies that they say they can officially add it to the official
and you can hazards. See at the top here of this line, number 2 and number 3, these are wells, and the wells have dug through, and they can see. As the land, when they dig it, it comes straight up, and then they look at what's down there, and then the geologist actually studies the core samples, and they realize, oh shoot, that's down there, okay, and then they say, oh yeah, there's still oil down there. But go ahead there, Canuck.
Yeah. So then I'm going down to the next diagram in there where they show where it is and how far it goes. So they have it color coded again from like you're looking down from the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting. So they have it, see, starting all the way down by Huntington Beach, and then they have it all running right up through.
Newport Inglewood.
Yeah, right through.
The extent to the Torrance Fault segment. Okay. Wilmington Blind Thrust Fault intersection with Newport Inglewood.
Yeah, so all the crazy Palo Verde stuff that's happening now is just to the.
Yeah, it's just to the outside of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So, like, once you see these diagrams, it makes it a lot easier to
Here's Palo
understand what we're talking about.
where the land is sinking into the ocean, and part of it there's an uplift, and we've seen the video where there was no land there before, but there is there now, and it says because of the, I don't know.
But it's not where the landslide is coming off. It's
Correct.
a little bit above where the landslide is actually happening. So it's pretty interesting.
That's where it's sliding down the slope of the, and I'll draw another picture here. New, don't save. Go ahead. So I'll draw this picture here that I'm going to put on there. You know, I'm going to draw it like this, and then like this. And, okay, and share on screen. All right, see, this is the uplift. That's what's going on. What's happening in Palo Verdes is these pizza boxes are sliding down the faces of each other, sliding away from the anticline into where I guess what a syncline would be, but it's out to sea. So if we have if the ocean is here, this land is sliding out, and as it does, it stays above the land, and we saw that it's because of this part going up, these are sliding down down the slide of this face. Okay, so that's what's happening with this anticline going up, and these are falling down, and that's what's happening out there in Palo Verdes. Now Palo Verdes Fault is somewhere up here. I don't know exactly, but I think Canuck is gonna.
Yeah, it's more on top of the hill where the landslides are starting from. Basically,
Got an echo.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Put your ear thing in a little more. Your plug, I think your plug just came undone a little bit.
Well, it's in good.
All right. Now there's an echo.
That's weird.
Yeah, just happened to. We'll deal with it.
Well, just have to keep going, I guess.
Yeah, continue.
Okay, now the next diagram shows it from underneath.
There you go. There's the anticlinical axle surface. There's a syncline axle surface out there. And they're looking very deep, the Wilmington blind thrust down here. At the California coastline, you can see the line, right? And then here's, I think that's Palo Verdes right there. I think that's what they're doing there. And, yeah, we're looking at it good. And that's what we're talking about. So these different layers, how they're I don't know what's the red, the depth, okay, 350 or 700. All right, so the red is deeper than out here. So it's all the land is sliding down as the other part is being lifted up. And then there's a mechanism that's lifting up. So we haven't talked about that yet, but I don't know if we'll get into it. But as one part's lifting up, the other stuff's like sliding down the face. And that's what's happening on Palo Verdes.
Yeah. So basically, the rest of this study, it just tries to explain that should be considered as active under there. And that it's capable of producing large quakes.
There you go, producing large quakes. All right. This is a pretty good little, I'm going to save this one. Darn. What happened to it? I lost it. Where is it? Is that it? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And it's basically in between Palos Verdes and Newport Inglewood Faults with Huntington Beach Fault cutting across. So
Okay.
it's crazy stuff.
Yeah. So are we done with this article? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I just want to look at that. Images. It's just a lot of data. Hard for anybody to see. Okay, close that one. All right. I don't know why we're catching.
Is it still echoing?
Yeah. Let me see. Is there an echo? Yeah, echoes on my end now. All right. So it might be my sound system. I didn't touch anything.
Well, who knows?
That's funny. Yeah, okay. There is an echo. Probably because.
You sound all right on my end, bud.
What's that, bud?
Said you sound all right on my end.
Yeah, Joe sounds good, but am I still echoing?
No, it's.
No, you're good too, Canuck.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't have any
all
screens.
right.
I hear echo, and everybody else on Twitch is hearing an echo. So hey,
Who's echoing though? Are all of us?
well, I'm hearing echoes.
Yeah, I hear it too, but it's like me coming back at me again.
As it is like a it's like a reverb. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting.
I have no idea how it's doing.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll deal with it.
Yeah, I just have to keep going, I guess.
Yes, sir. I closed all the windows thinking it might have been that. So, we lost Luke.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's weird stuff.
I don't know, man. All right, we still have that. So let me share that screen. Back to the map. There we go. All right. Clemmer's back.
Yeah.
All right.
Thought
No
maybe
worries.
that would work.
It's not you, dude. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
An auditorium, Cat says. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Like we're in a empty auditorium and the sound's coming back.
We are live, baby.
How did we get that from Joe? You're fine, Canuck.
Yeah, it's probably my system acting up.
Well, I don't understand how I can hear it, but like when Joe talks, it's fine, or when Clem talks, it's good.
Yeah,
but it's like reverbing when I talk. So,
yeah, it's reverbing. Yeah, it has to do with Talk Studio. I think it's been giving us issues, but I think I've paid through December, and I'll be purchasing another. Probably what's the other one that? The other one. It's a different one. But
like go to meeting or something.
Yeah, maybe not go to meeting. I don't know. I'm already max. I think having my initial phase wanting to was be for the family night where we can all get on and just BS with each other and let it be private and not be on chat or anything. I always wanted that to be part of it, but when you start getting more than 4 people, it gets kind of hectic. Everybody talking over each other, especially because I think Canuck is kind of hard of hearing too, so he can't hear us, or it might just be that he's long distance. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be a bunch of different things. Yeah.
But whatever, we'll deal with it. Go right ahead, bud. We're back with the screen. Go ahead.
So we're going to talk about Palos Verdes next.
All right.
So we've already talked a bit about it before
Mhm.
when we were doing the other thrust fault episode, because Palos Verdes fault can go 7.8. So we mentioned that in the other time, because of how close it is to these other thrust faults. So, but since then, they've discovered that there's other faults that are connected to Palos Verdes. So that's what I'm going to explain next. So I'll put in the link for that.
Cat has a problem with escarpments too. I don't know, girl. You got a lot of problems. Issues, not problems, issues. I just close my eyes and imagine I'm in an auditorium. The auto is AI afoot. I know.
Well, at least they can still hear us. So I guess that's better than nothing.
Geologic issues. Nothing wrong with that. I know, right?
So now I got to copy.
Mm-hmm.
It'll do it.
Well, you know, some of the videos too that is out there. I'm just going to make the picture. Okay, is that all right? Can I?
Yeah.
All right. So I put it up there. It's got 3. I think we looked at this the other day. Save image. Borderlands active. Okay. Borderlands active. Let me add to the screen so I can blow it up. Window, this one. Yeah, share this. All right, there you go. All right. Okay, I blew it up for you, bud.
Okay, so we're good. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this one, this is the fault that the Oceanside quake was on in '86. So they've been concerned about that. So they've been trying to figure out specifically how that one works and what it's connected to.
Oh, San Pedro Basin. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a major fault with the San Diego Trough fault. Wow.
Yeah. So they figured out that the San Diego Trough fault and the San Pedro Basin are connected. So based upon that, they figured out it can make a 7.9. Now I'm just going to read off like the Wikipedia thing, and then I'll go into it in more detail after that. So the San Diego Trough Fault Zone is a group of connected right lateral strike slip faults that run parallel to the coast of Southern California, United States, for 150 to 166 kilometers. The fault zone takes up 25% of the slip within the ICB, so the intercontinental borderlands. Portions of the fault get within 30 kilometers of populated cities. However, the faults do not reach shore. The north of the fault zone begins where the San Pedro Basin Fault Zone and the Santa Catalina Fault Zone meet. We haven't talked about Santa Catalina yet, but we'll get to that after. And the southern section terminates where the Bahia Soledad Fault is. Seismic risk along the fault is high, with potential earthquake scenarios reaching up to magnitude 7.9 in the worst case. An earthquake of this size would devastate coastal areas.
Yeah, 7.9 would just wipe us all out. I mean, I'm not there anymore, but
Yeah.
I have people there that I love, but hey, yeah, 7.9. That's kind of like what would happen up in the Pacific Northwest. The idea that a complete rip, I think, isn't possible. I believe it breaks in as much as it does down in Chile. When Chile, the whole thing broke, it broke in sections, one fault, and it broke. And then a little bit later, another fault, bang, and then another one, bang, and then the big giant 9.5.
Yeah, and in this case, there is a step over, they think, between San Pedro Basin Fault and the San Diego Trough Fault.
Sure. Okay.
But they think it can go through that if it's big enough.
Right.
And we'll find this when we study all sorts of other faults later on.
So I'm seeing that they're synonymous. The San Pedro leans right into the San Diego Trough, but there's a step over from Palo Verdes over to it. Are you referring to that step over?
No, I'm just talking about the one San Pedro Basin and San Diego Trough. Now I'm going to go back and explain Palos Verdes because I have to explain the one it connects to, and then I'll explain how it connects to this other one.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Or Coronado.
Yeah, the Coronado Bank Fault is the next one over. So it's the one that actually they say connects to Palos Verdes.
Correct.
Yeah. So when this quake happened back in '86, they didn't know which one it was on, right? So they didn't know if it was on Coronado Bank or on San Diego Trough. But they eventually found out the quake in '86 was on San Diego Trough Fault. But they're pretty close together when it goes down farther, the Coronado Bank. But
Oceanside, yeah, it's only about 20 miles.
Yeah. But when they go down, they both come together at the Agua Blanco Fault. So that's why I'm explaining all these. So they're a little bit apart till you get way down to Baja. And the Agua Blanco Fault comes off on Sonata where the point is there. And both of those run into it. That same point.
So both of them are kind of like splays off the same one then?
Yeah, they're basically splays of Agua Blanco.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's important to watch the quakes that are down there. And that's why they did that study from 2023 on those 2 6s that were offshore SoCal that you and I looked at there earlier when we were talking about this. I might show that at the end, but I just want to explain the ones off of SoCal for right now. So I'm just going to read a little bit more of this because it explains like the background and the fault characteristics and all that stuff.
I think I found the problem. I just refreshed it and make sure everybody else can hear. Okay, I know they can hear me. Go ahead and continue. I'm going to see if they can still hear you.
Okay, I found
what happened.
Yeah, I'll just read the tectonic background
here
on this page.
Okay. Are we still 5x5, Timmy, out there? Vampy's having fun. Okay, yeah, I found what happened, resolved it. Yeah, it's a software issue. Don't worry.
Okay, well, I don't have an echo now, so we're good.
Yeah, I took the echo out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll read the tectonic background here of this article.
It never ends, man. I'm telling you.
California lies along the plate boundary between the North American plate and the Pacific plate. The San Andreas fault system and the eastern California shear zone accommodate approximately 85% of the predominantly strike slip deformation. The rest of the plate motion is taken up by the California continental borderlands, which itself is broken up into 2 parts. So this is the stuff we talked about at the start, but they're giving it again, which is broken up into 2 parts: the outer continental borderlands and the inner continental borderlands. So these faults that we're talking about take up 15% of all this stuff.
50% of what? The pressure?
The strain that's coming up from part of if you include all this as the San Andreas system. So those offshore faults take up 15% of it.
In the ICB or in the outer and the inner?
It says, so the whole thing, the CCB.
The CCB. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a complete coastal borderland.
Yeah. So all these.
Is that how you're reading it?
Yeah. So all these ones that are offshore are all part of that.
About 15% of all the pressure along the San Andreas is offshore here. 15%. That means there's 85% on the interior faults of the San Jacinto, Elsinore, Newport Inglewood faults, and there's only San Cristos, whatever, or Cristiano's fault. There's not a lot of other ones.
No.
So all of these fault systems are the main actors in, wow.
It just takes way longer for the strain to build up out there to make a like a super large quake.
Right.
Yeah. So it says the ICB is associated with various offshore faults, of which San Diego Trough Fault is one of them. So that's basically what it says. Now it says San Diego Trough Fault Zone takes up 25% of the strain release of the ICB. So that's the 4 faults we're talking about, the inner ones. So that's pretty
I'm listening to you.
Yeah. And so the next thing, it talks about the distances, but we've already mentioned that before, I think already anyway. And it talks about the complexity of it. The northern part of the fault zone is complex as it is the meeting point between 2 fault zones, the San Pedro Basin Fault and the Santa Catalina Fault Zone, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And it says they bound the Santa Catalina Island platform with the Santa Catalina Fault running to the west, the San Pedro Basin Fault to the east. South of this tectonic block, they join together and form the San Diego Trough Fault Zone. The next segment of fault runs narrow and straight for a distance of 100 to 150 kilometers parallel to the coast. The fault zone continues south before merging with the Bahia Soledad fault off the coast of Baja. And if you keep going down with that, they run into Agua Blanco Fault, which it doesn't say that in here, but that's in the newest stuff.
We studied that just the other day.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the seismic hazard and activity part. Despite the San Diego Trough Fault Zone being a large and mature slip fault system, it is poorly understood by researchers. However, it is thought that it is able to host large earthquakes capable of devastating Southern California population centers, including the counties of Los Angeles, San Diego, and Orange. It has slipped in the Holocene period, which means it is recently active. Estimates predict a multi-segment rupture of the fault zone is capable of producing an earthquake of magnitude 7.6 to 7.9. An earthquake this large in such close proximity to densely populated Southern California would be devastating. In 1986, a magnitude 5.8 earthquake struck off the coast of Oceanside, killing 1 and injuring 29 more.
Really?
Yeah.
That many people died?
Yeah, I guess so. As the event had a reverse faulting mechanism, it did not rupture the San Diego Trough Fault Zone itself. However, it did rupture a 20-kilometer restraining stepover linking 2 fault zone segments. Aftershocks had varying local mechanisms, with some as the result of reverse faulting.
Now, when they say rupture, they're not talking about an opening of the ground. They're talking a reverse fault system. That's the backside of an anticline in 86. So,
well,
it's way down on the ground, and that's what they mean. That's what they use the word rupture. That's a bullshit term. That's where the quake happened, 12 miles deep. A restraining step over. What the hell do they mean by that?
The step over is like you come up like on the bottom like the fault coming up, then it goes like at a right angle, and that's how it connects to the next part of the fault. So wherever there's those stepovers,
Yeah,
that's how they're connecting them.
the definition: strike slip tectonics or wrench tectonics is a type of tectonics that is dominated by a lateral horizontal movements within the Earth's crust, where the zone of strike slip tectonics forms the boundary between two tectonic plates. This is known as a transform or conservative plate area. The step over is the crossover in the Zorro sign, right? It's the middle part, or the actual the top and the lower part of the Z's. Those are the step overs. I see
Yeah.
what that's doing.
Yeah. So it's like reverse faulting in that step over. That's what they're talking about. So the step over is like east west, because it's like east west, but it's like a lightning bolt kind of.
Yeah,
And it's connecting the fault strands. And we'll see that a lot more when we do all the other ones, because it talks about the same thing. Yeah. So those ones are all connected.
It strikes up, yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm going to bring up another fault map, which you haven't seen yet.
Okay,
but it shows them like out farther, and it's more. It's like a better picture that shows like how they're all.
Oh, did I say something? Well, BS is not bad. He's 13 now. I'm sure he said it. Sure, he said a lot of words. There you go. All right. I see lines, he says.
Everything's lines. Lines everywhere.
I clicked it. All right. Let me save the image and put it there. And then I'll open up the image so I can blow it up for you. All right. So, all right. Back to open up the article for me so I can follow along. And then let's go ahead and share screen.
Yeah, just click the map part when you get to it.
Yeah, that's what I did. Okay. So loading, show on screen. All right. There you go, buddy.
Yeah, see, this is so you can see the connections with how it's going down.
Yeah.
And how they're all running together.
There's a step over right there. It's in from out here over to this San Diego Trough behind Santa Catalina. Yeah, I see.
And when it goes down there, you can't see it off the bottom of the screen, but it's all running into the Agua Blanca fault.
Agua Blanca, yeah. Which we talked about that last
the last episode.
Yeah, last episode. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that helps people to understand it and see it better.
Right.
So now the next thing we're gonna.
So this one right here is the boy, my brain is just dead right now. This Newport Inglewood fault. This is San Pedro fault, and this is the other fault he's talking about right now. This is the San Pedro, San Diego Trough Coronado fault. Okay. So we've done 1, 2, and now we've done the third one. Then there is a step over from behind Catalina to this other fault. I suppose that's what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, I'm going to do that's the final one we're going to talk about that's off. The next one off, and it goes past San Clemente Island there on the map.
Right in the front. I remember when an earthquake happened there not too long ago, too.
I have another map that shows all those.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd rather we just do this one right now. Sure. So to explain this, there's actually 3 faults out there that all connect. They don't have them marked on this one, but I'm going to explain it. Like they don't have the name on there, but they show it. So there's actually 3 that connect. The Santa Cruz fault, which is way up to the north, then the Catalina Fault, which runs right down to San Clemente Island, and then the San Clemente Fault, which is from the island that goes down. So there's actually three
right down here.
Yeah, that are all together.
Segments of the fault zone. Okay.
Yeah. So now they consider those three all as one. Like when they first started studying them, they thought they were all separate, but now they haven't done an updated thing on it to find out how big a quake it can make. They just say, well, it's super long.
There's Catalina Island. Between Catalina and Santa Cruz Island, there's a fault called Santa Cruz Ridge Fault Zone, right? It's got a couple of splays on it here. San Clemente Fault, right? And then the Santa Catalina Ridge Fault Zone, the Santa Cruz Catalina Ridge Fault Zone, and the San Clemente Fault, right? Yep. And then we get down further, San Clemente Fault. Yeah. So this fault down here, San Clemente, comes off of the, yeah, that's a pretty darn big one, dude. Wow.
Yeah, and that's why they're worried now, because
all the way to Santa Cruz Island,
yeah,
which is outboard of this. Wait, there's a splay. Santa Cruz. This is the, it's Santa Clemente. There's Santa Cruz, unnamed Santa Cruz, Santa Catalina.
Yeah, because it goes Santa Cruz, Catalina, and then San Clemente. So those are the three that are together.
And the Santa Catalina and the Santa Cruz are the same fault, and the San Clemente is yet another fault that's even further, or is it? Or do they all join?
Well, they say they're all together, and that should all be considered one fault zone now.
Fault zone now. Okay. You can tell that in the middle there's 30 bank mile fault. This is 30 miles from shore, by the way. And I'm showing a map. I know you can see it. Here's the Santa Cruz, Santa Catalina, and then this is the San Clemente, which goes all the way down here. They're calling this one whole fault zone.
Yeah.
Like there's two fault zones here. This is all one. I mean, they all are conjuncting or have a conjunction down here. I don't know why. Santa Cruz, Santa Clemente Ridge faults. Right here, that's where they join. So one here and one here, then they join here, and then they split, 20 miles apart. I think San Clemente Island's like 50 miles offshore. That's where the Navy bombs the shit out of it. But very weird. Very, very, very weird.
Yeah. So now I'm going to put in the newest study that I found on it, which is from 2020. So it has more pictures and explains more stuff. So it's talking about how the Catalina Fault connects to San Clemente. And it has maps in it.
Okay.
Stuff too.
All right. Just whenever you get it up there, I'll jump on it.
Did it not copy? Control V.
Vampy put up a nice article as well. Thank you, Vampy. I'll have to look into that one. All right.
There. Did it
All
now.
right. I got it. Share this tab. Okay. Now the study area is right here. I can save image. desktop, and then I'll go and get that image, and then I'll blow it up for you. Then I'll share that image. Window right there, share it. And share on screen. There you go, buddy. Go ahead.
Okay, so in this, I'm just gonna. I don't really want to read all the stuff we've already talked about. But I'll go down a bit more. If it'll let me. There, I had to put it in the. Yeah, I had to put it in the standard view so it'll let me scroll it better.
Oh yeah. You have to put a mouse on your laptop. It works a lot better. But that means you'd have to sit at your desk.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to, buddy.
Eventually, yeah.
I mean, we're getting some pretty good detail here. Okay, I guess I'll read the abstract on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Catalina Basin, located within Southern California Intercontinental Borderland, or ICB, United States, is traversed by two active submerged fault systems that are part of the border North America Pacific Plate boundary. The San Clemente Fault, along with a prominent splay, the Kimki Fault, and the Catalina Fault. Previous studies have suggested that the San Clemente Fault zone may be accommodating up to half of the 8 millimeter a year right lateral slip distributed across the ICB between San Clemente Island and the mainland coast. And that Catalina Fault acts as a significant restraining or bend in the larger transform fault system. Here we provide new high-resolution geophysical constraints on the seabed morphology and deformation history and kinematics of the active faults in and on the margins of the Catalina Basin. We significantly revise the San Clemente Fault zone mapping and describe a discrete releasing bend that corresponds with lows in gravity and magnetic anomalies, as well as the connection between the San Clemente Fault and the Santa Cruz Fault to the north. Subsurface seismic reflection and data show evidence for a vertical San Clemente Fault with significant lateral offsets, which the Catalina Fault exhibits lesser cumulative deformation with a vertical component, indicated by a fold adjacent to the Clemente Fault, or the Catalina Fault, sorry. Geodetic data are consistent with the San Clemente Fault right lateral slip ranges as high as 3.6 millimeters a year, which is pretty incredible, and transpressional convergence of less than 1.5 millimeters a year accommodated along the Catalina Fault. The quaternary strands of the San Clemente Fault and the Catalina Fault consistently cut across the Miocene and Pliocene structure, suggesting generation of basin and range morphology in the previous tectonic environment that has been overprinted by quaternary transpression. Some inherited crustal fabrics, especially thinned crust and localized relatively hard crustal blocks, appear to have been strong influence on the geometry of the main trace of the San Clemente Fault, whereas the inherited faults and other structures, example the Catalina Ridge, appears to have minimal influences on the geometry of active faults like the inner continental boundary land. Now, this touches on what I closed the screens because I thought we wouldn't get into it. It talked a little bit about the basin and range, which are older kind of stretching that has gone on offshore here. And kind of like what's happening up in the middle of Nevada, right? where we got there's the anticline and the syncline, and the sliding down of these um, uh, uh, uplifts, right? Of the because the stuff being pushed up from below and everything's kind of sliding out, and then what do you call it? Erosion kind of wipes it out. That's still what's going on offshore as well, and it's interesting to see that. And again, it's not straight across longitudinally, right? Is that longitude straight across, or is that latitude? I think latitude straight across, right? Longitude straight up.
Yeah.
Okay. So latitudinal, okay? It's not straight across. There's an angle to this. And it's that angle, I think, is really critical in understanding all these different faults and the transpressional stuff and the spreading apart. And Kat said something earlier. I'm going to throw this out there because it's back in my brain, and I'm going to throw something out there. The East Pacific rise comes up right in the middle of Baja, and it hits the delta there. We live on the surface, right? The thing's like 20, 30 miles thick. What if that boundary is moving left? Meaning it's moving offshore. And if it is moving offshore, could it be what's driving the basin and range spreading apart and the thinning of the plate and the uplift that's going on? And if that uplift is going on, then 20 million years from now, the EPR could be off the coast. Or maybe it was off the coast and it's moving inland. I don't know, one way or the other. But I have, because you have a spreading ridge, you got new land coming up and then it moves apart, right? It spreads, it thins the plate up above. And we get magmatic stuff coming up from deep down below. Yeah, EPR has gone off the coast of California. That's more missiles.
Rocket alerts.
Yeah, these guys, they just killed their leader. Israel just devastatedly wiped out all of that Hezbollah. And they've had the opportunity to do this a long time, and they haven't pulled it, but now they have. And oh boy.
Well, there's been a few today, including the Houthis shooting some too.
Yeah, well, maybe there's
But
I'm gonna nail them.
Yeah. So there has been stuff that's happened the last 24 hours, but nothing too serious.
Back to the subject matter. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know Kat's out there; she's listening, and it's an interesting theory to see just how much the East Pacific rise has play in North America. If you change the Salton Sea, maybe even north, you probably
have to shut it off because it keeps going.
It's going 8. I agree, Kat. You can turn a blind thing blind down. Yeah. And I like what Professor Nick even had to say, which I appreciate it, because he got out of the box and he said, well, if something's subducting, does it shut off right away? It could take 10 million years for it to shut off because it'd still be spreading. And yeah. Oh, they bombed the shit out of, Lebanon again. I could see flames I think they're looking at the Beirut skyline and it's all aflame.
Oh,
I just looked out there.
Worry about that after.
Yeah. All right, continue with your article there, buddy.
Yeah. So in the introduction section, I'm going to summarize the first paragraph because what it does, it compares to other faults that are similar to this. So it talks about the other big strike slip ones like Queen Charlotte Fault and North Anatolian Fall of Turkey and the Alpine Fall of New Zealand.
So you're going to talk about the similarities between these and what's happening down here in Southern Cal.
Yeah, and then it gives an example, like the Kaikoura earthquake, which was 2016. So it says these are all crazy strike slip faults that can generate big earthquakes greater than Mag 6. So that's what it talks about in the first paragraph. But this next section I like because it gives a list of all the quakes going back quite a ways. So I'm going to read it. The California intercontinental borderland offshore of Southern California and northern Baja California offers an opportunity to examine a set of active strike slip faults that accommodate as much as 8 millimeters a year of right lateral shear, or close to 15% of the total Pacific North America plate boundary slip budget of 48 to 50 millimeters a year. Several significant earthquakes.
How much? 48 meters?
That's what the whole San Andreas system does, I think, 48 to 50.
Wow, we're talking about 3 and 4 millimeters a year. Now we're talking about 48 and 50. So combined.
Well, it would be 15% of that 48 to 50, which they're saying is the San Andreas.
Well, I heard the San Andreas only moves 7, but now they're saying, wow. All right.
Well, I think they're including like the whole system because they're talking about total Pacific North America plate boundary slip rate.
Okay, bud.
Okay, so then it talks about all the quakes that have happened out there. So several significant earthquakes have occurred along offshore faults in the ICB. So intercontinental borderland, including the 1981 magnitude 6 Santa Barbara Island earthquake, which it goes back to like those ones that were listed on the map right at the start. So
right. 2018 up there.
Yeah. Which would be a newer one, the 2018 one, because that other first map only went to 2012.
Correct.
So the 2018 was the magnitude 5.3 Santa Cruz Island.
Okay, yeah.
Event. Yeah. The 1951 magnitude 5.9 San Clemente Island earthquake, and the largest recorded ICB earthquake to date, the magnitude 6.2 offshore Ensenada earthquake of 1964, which I thought that was interesting because 64 was the big Alaska earthquake year.
Yep.
And then it says shaking from earthquake ruptures can also enhance the risk of local tsunamis via uplift at restraining bends or co-seismic slope failure, which is landslides.
We talked about the restraining bends. That's that like the Garlock is a restraining bend. We talked about between Santa Cruz and San Clemente. There's a restraining bend. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the next sentence is several large submarine landslides have been documented in the offshore California borderland.
I watched those too. I look at it, go, okay. All right. Wow.
So then it gives like a map showing where everything is, like where the cities are in comparison of what they're talking about in the study. So there's a map there.
I see the map that we have. I didn't see another map.
Yeah, it's that first one that's on the screen.
That's the one that's on there right now. I'm sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want me to change something or?
No, it's just basically showing the area that they're talking about in this right
Right,
now.
in the square area is what we're talking about. Okay, everybody. So figure 6A, right in the middle is here. Let me so you can see my mouse here. Figure 6A is that restraining kind of thing, and you have the San Clemente is right through here. This is the Catalina Fault, and then this is the Santa Cruz Fault. So there's like a restraining of pressure, kind of like what's happening onshore and invisible. This is happening well underground, and so when they dig these pipes and they go down and they bring this stuff up, then they look at it and go, oh shoot, and then they do the tomography and they do the bouncing of the sound into the plates, and it starts to show some interesting, and I have it, but I don't have it. An interesting visual for what's offshore. It's pretty darn crazy, tell you the truth. Pretty darn crazy.
And it has quakes on there marked with yellow stars with
yellow stars. There you go.
Yeah. So it's kind of showing everything they're talking about all in one diagram, basically.
All right. I know it came as a PDF. Well, details, date modified. Yeah, I don't think I can get the image for you. I have an image. That's not it. No. But anyway, I have an image for you that would show you the and that's kind of how I just draw it for easy sake, for those who are trying to understand what we're talking about here. There are visuals. They send vibrations down into the silt, and they can see where the differences in the landmass are, and then they can see where there's a break, and these breaks are where the faults are, and that's kind of what we're all talking about tonight. This would be the uplift, and then this would be the blind thrust, and that's kind of what's being said this whole evening. And these fault systems are hidden from us all because number one, they're under the water, and number two, the only way they can figure them out is by drilling all these drill things and getting out there, and also, putting a sensor like a stethoscope on the ground, and then boom, hit something on the ground, and then listening to the bounce back of the plate respond backwards up to the electronic device that would say, okay, this one came back to it this fast, that came up to it that fast, and so on, and then draw a picture. And I do have an image. I don't I was a busy boy today. I downloaded probably 50 different articles and stuff, just because I think it's fascinating on what they're learning offshore of California, and it's starting to come together. And when they get it, it's going to be like, what?
Yeah, and to explain this further, they've only really been doing it since, the last 20 years. So since around the year 2000. And they're going out farther, which there's two other faults, maybe even three, in the outer continental borderland, and they're doing work on those right now. So they don't have. So, but they've gone out as far as this one doing stuff.
Yeah, and
so
I look for Goldfinger, and I'm following him, but I haven't seen anything by him lately.
Well, the last I heard, which was a year or two ago, he was working on the turbidite studies for offshore SoCal
Right.
to try and figure out how many times the southern San Andreas has gone off in 10,000 years.
I found the image. All right, so bang. I had to go through. Oh my God. I had to go through so many. Probably it was up near the bottom of my list. All right. I opened up 15 different pages. No more than that, probably 30. All right, so this is just a, share this instead. This is a sideways, you got to kind of like look sideways on this. So bear with me, okay? Share this on stream. So this is the top of the ground is to the left, the bottom of the ground is to the right. And you can see these different breaks like right there in the middle where you can't see my mouse, can you? Nope. 1, 2, 3 over. 1, 2, 3. You can see the break in the middle there. That's the kind of faults that are showing, and you can see as you get further down here towards the middle, there's a break off. These are different images, and they're showing the different fault breaks in the uplift and the downlift. These are from the Pleistocene into the all the way current, and you can see the many different layers that the information comes to us, and you can see where it's falling off, and then a clear break on that one right in the middle. Look at that. It's just like, oh yeah, that was a quake, but yet the backside fell and the foresight went up. So the falling, what is it? The falling arc, whatever, of the strike slip fell down and the other part came up. And you can see over and over and over again. But that's kind of what we're trying to talk about, what's happening offshore and how they're seeing it and how they're documenting it. And this is just one little tiny sector, the pass through, right? So they get these images and then they put them all together and then they can see, okay, this is next to this, this is next to this. And then they say, okay, then they can draw the line of these faults. And that's how they're discovering what's going on offshore. And the fact that some of them are like really good dips, and they go, oh, shoot, that's a main fault. And then you can see some smaller stuff. But yeah, this is the kind of technology that they're using to help us draw a picture about what's happening there offshore, the San Diego Trout, San Pedro Basin, and all of that. And then also on this image here, where see that square area, that was a study area around Catalina Island and the other island. But not Santa Cruz, but I forget the third one. But interesting how they're drawing up these faults, and all the oil drilling offshore, they've got all this information because they drilled the hell out of the area, in searching, and then they have that kind of information, and now they have also this kind of like a tomography, kind of a vibration, pump a vibration into the ground, and look what bounces back and shows us an image. So I think it's fantastic, and to kind of we're an hour and 30 in. Do you want to stay right here? Or do you have anything more you want to add to the ICB or?
No, I'm just going to say, like, if you actually go into this study that we're in right now, like it goes down and it shows like what it looks like underwater. They have drawn images of like where the fault is in the ridge, and then it shows the basins in between the faults. So it gets super, super detailed because it breaks them all down into the segments, and then it shows like what it would look like if you were looking at it straight on underwater. So it marks the fault that's in the ridge. And the ridge is usually named after whatever the fault is, because they can see all this underwater now. So basically, where the faults are, it's lifting, making ridges under the water. So it's crazy stuff.
I've got the images. I'm pulling them up now, so we can share that with those people who are on some of the other channels. There's quite a bit of, and there's some that are in color.
Yeah. Some they have black and white. It just depends on how they're doing it.
Wow, there's quite a bit. This is pretty detailed. The Channel Islands. Yeah, this one. What is it? Figure 6 talks about the Catalina Basin. That's a sideways side cut view. That looks pretty cool. And then, then the one after that, it's showing exactly what I just showed.
Yeah.
Except for a little more, color detail and drawn lines rather than wow, there's so many images.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Because down farther, when it goes into all the images, it says, well, this quake was on this one here. So it's like super detailed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like nuts.
I don't think I've seen an article with 15 images like this is having.
Yeah, well, the newer they are, the more stuff they have in them.
Yeah, the last one's pretty cool.
Once you go back like 10 years, it's all black and white and crapo. It's hard to even
see. Yeah.
But the newer studies are all super detailed stuff. Like I haven't even read all this one, so I'm just like scrolling down through and I see certain places where it'll say like this quake on such and such a date was on this one, and then it has like like it's referring back to previous studies, but it's showing them, and then here at the end, as it gets close to the end of it, it's talking about how the faults were generated and how the basin evolved and all this. It's freaking nuts. So they're like going way back and explaining how the whole thing formed and everything else. It's just crazy.
Okay. Yeah, cool. I can zip through these. Here's one image. Do you want to talk about this image that's out there now?
Which one?
This is San Gabriel Channel. Santa Catalina is right in the middle. Catalina Ridge. San Clemente Ridge is outboard. There's Kimkey Basin, which is just north, and we talked about that already. Emery Knoll, which is out there. There's a San Gabriel Channel, which is just off Palo Verdes.
Yeah.
So and then right here is Newport, so they go right out there. There's that image, and this one kind of tells you about all the different earthquakes. And San Diego Trough Zone 1986 happened in that sector where there's a lot of quakes. 1951 happened on the San Clemente Fault.
Yeah, because I don't know how many years that map is, but it's showing like all the quakes that's happened along those lines. So I don't know where all these people talk about that all this stuff is inactive. They must be not paying attention.
They're not,
because it doesn't make any sense to me. Because like when they show a map like that, it's been shaken out there however long. I don't know how long it said that map is for, how many quakes, but you can see all these things have had quakes on them, so it doesn't make any sense to me.
Fault, the Inglewood Fault is up at the top right, and Palo Verdes, Sango Trough, and then we know at San Pedro, Catalina Rift, Santa Cruz Fault leading all the way down. Santa Cruz Fault, I didn't realize it was that big. That's probably the biggest thing for me to learn thus far tonight, that it's that damn big. Every bit as big to me as the Elsinore Fault. So that's pretty trip. And you can see how it cuts through from the top here. And my Google Maps battery just failed. Well, I'm trying to get all these for you. And you can see the different splays, how they come across the San Clemente Fault Zone right through here. And yeah, I don't know. I want to say Kiefer,
Oh,
but
that map was 30 years
right,
of all quakes.
right, and landslides. You know, behind Catalina, here's the Catalina Rift or the reef fault or whatever. Um, and yeah, faults. They can see landslides that have happened. I was studying those too, going, dang, man, there's a couple places that if that fell, bye bye LA, you know. And these are older pictures here showing the landslides. Underwater landslides can create tsunamis, everybody.
Yeah, I think that's what's setting off the buoys myself. An
Yeah.
underwater landslide, and that's what's causing the buoys to go off before the
Mm-hmm.
big quake happens. I think that's what it is. Because
Right.
it would be detected on the seafloor, and then it goes into active mode, and
Right.
everybody
Turns on.
thinks
Yeah.
thinks
And
something
here's the
else is causing it.
Catalina Basin and Santa Monica Basin. You can see the different fault zones that come through. And these side views help me to really see the placement of sediment on top of rock and stuff. Then you say, "Wow, that's been a lot of time." And yeah, we're talking, long time.
Well, it's like the same thing as Elsinore, San Jacinto, and all
Yeah.
that. It's just that it's underwater, right?
And remember when we had the ice age, this was all exposed
So
because the ice
yeah.
sucked up all the water, right? When it was up in the north. So the water levels were substantially lower than they are now.
Yeah,
And
they were what, like 300 feet lower or more back then?
yeah, 400 to 700 feet from what I gathered um, at one time. But I don't know exactly because I think it's still all theoretical. But when you got 3 miles of ice, right, as far down as central Washington or middle or upper northern Washington, and all the way up over the Arctic cap, pretty insane. So it sucked up a lot of water, and the ocean was further out. Also, at that same time, North America was way to the east. So, I mean, the last ice age happened, 17,000 years ago was the end of it. We're coming out of it in geologic time. So the earth is getting warmer. Hello. It's normal. It's not man made, it's just natural. But it can easily fall back into a freezing system again, which they show, or scientists have shown, the ebbs and flows of ice, and we're getting into areas where people get kind
What's
of
that desalination of the salt water?
uh,
That's the currents of the ocean are a major contributor to
right.
climate.
Yeah, I heard a lot about a lot of fresh water has moved into the Greenland area north of it, and that's an indicator of something uh, gonna shift and change, um, weather and the events and stuff like that. So this is an older version, kind of like a sideways view of what I was showing you earlier, um, that they put together to show you in this article better drawings, and actually you can see um, the downlap surface and subbasin and right the faults up in Santa Cruz, right there, bang, 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 right, and San Gabriel fan deposits. That means stuff that's fold or flowed offshore, from onshore to offshore. That's what a fan is. It's sediments coming off and have filled the basins, and you can see the older faulting and folding. Um, I mean, it's been happening for millions of years, so it's not unheard of. But there are some major faults that have clear delineation from other. Um, I use the word wrong, but you can see the separate. They're different. from other faults. Like right here, look at this. You know, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, Pleistocene sediment exposed. Catalina in the Catalina Basin. We got the Catalina Fault. Got the Santa Cruz Fault going from right to left, and then Kimchi Ridge Fault, and then Kimchi Basin. And must have been a Japanese guy who named those. Yeah, that or somebody likes kimchi or something. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
Could be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Could be the guy that
What
found
about your
them.
veal salad?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't eat that kind of food, so I don't. I just don't know what's in it.
Oh, it's just crazy, all the diagrams I got in there.
Yeah, this was a really cool article. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, digest this one. 1,300 feet, 1,200 feet, 1,100 feet behind Catalina Island. Catalina Island's up there, but if the ocean was, 50, 100 feet or 100 miles offshore where the actual beaches were, that'd be a trip. Northern Catalina Basin. Yeah. Pretty far out. Local unconformities.
Well, if anybody wants to read that one, they just can go to the study and read for days, because it's
right.
Crazy stuff.
It's a big article too. It's pretty thorough from what I'm gathering.
Oh yeah, and in it they'll take an individual quake and compare it to. I see they're comparing one to landers and all these other ones in there, based upon the fault geometry and all this stuff. Like, it's friggin' nuts. They're taking like one quake on one whatever and saying this is like this one here, and
because it acted like
yeah,
it did, yeah.
Well,
that Santa Cruz fault I didn't realize was that big. I knew there was faults out there, but holy smokes, that one's a main one, man.
Yeah, and there's other ones in the OCB too. There's a Santa Rosa Ridge one, and then there's another one, Farello Fault, and it's all ones they're doing work on right now. So there's not a super lot of information, but there are ones going out closer to the edge of the continental margin or whatever.
The releasing bend, right? All right, I see this. Non-extended crust.
They're focusing mainly on the inner ones now, even though they are doing the outer ones.
ICB. Okay, they're looking at between the Catalina Fault and the San Clemente Fault, or the Santa Cruz Fault. Sorry, the one side's got an extension, the other side doesn't have an extension. That's kind of interesting. So, like a spreading apart, possibly, or I'm not sure, but that's pretty far out.
Yeah, you'd have to read each individual section to figure out what they're talking about, because it's like a crap load of info. And that's 2020. I didn't find any other ones newer than that, but I imagine there probably is.
Yeah, you can see the strike slip on all these. Right? The regional trans extension forms local deep submergence of Miocene rocks caused marine sedimentation and systematic or syntectonic deposition. Syntectonic, I think, is the drop downs, created grove strata in local deeps. Early Pleistocene, further blocking tilting and subsidence, continued sub-basin formation begins forming larger ICP basins. Flatline marine strata deposited. Okay, so all right, so when one side of the interior wall falls down, there's more it catches more sediment. I think that's what that means. Late Pleistocene regional transpression leads to uplift. Yeah, it's the crunching of the Pacific plate against the North American plate, creating the transpression and uplift. Pleistocene sediment in the Kimchi Ridge accelerated deposition from the San Gabriel system. So it separates it, eh? Here's the Kemchi rise. Okay, so it created this kind of backside here. Late quaternary, strike slip, and transspecial structures overprint pre-existing structures following paths of pre-existing weaknesses within crustal fabric. So wherever the weakness is, it's going to break and tilt and fall over. And thus we get those other kind of faults, right? And of course, that's where we started the evening. Is there anything else you want to add to it there, bud?
No, that's it. I think we did.
All right. I think that's a pretty good one, really.
Pretty
You know,
thorough job in that.
Chock full of information. And again, this is just superficial information. It's not super in deep. It's to get you a piece of the flavor, and if you want to go and dig deeper, and if you feel comfortable at some time that you want to talk about some of this, and you understand one of these articles that we spoke about, which we posted here on twitch.tv/JoeSlickLive, then feel free to come in a chat or send me a link and what you want to talk about, and maybe we'll bring you on in one of our open discussions here on the Rabbit Hole, or one of the other channel or so, and where you feel free to re-listen to it, and then I can post it again. I can edit it and say, well, take that out, put that back in, and I didn't mean to say that. And I can always do that too. So, but I appreciate you all for listening. I appreciate you all for your chat inside there on Twitch. And I think sometime they're going to be allowing us to, look at the chat that's happening on Facebook, on Rumble, and on YouTube, as well as Twitch all together. I think there's some legalities they can't do it, but I read somewhere where they're going to do it, or they've done it. I don't know yet. So we'll still work all that out. I think my boy got dropped again. He's got a busy Saturday night, I guess. Wait, we on Saturday? Oh man, what day is this? It's Saturday.
Saturday.
I don't know what day it is, man. I'll tell you. My gosh.
I don't think we could do these back to back on like 2 days in a row. We'd be dead. It's like info.
Well, again, I'm a little bit off because I did do the shit show last night, and that was pretty intense too. It was fun. It just, the late nights just kick my tail. I get up at between 4 and 6 anyway, but which is probably like 9 or 10 your time, because you're like 4 hours ahead of me, right?
Yeah, right now, until we go back on.
You're at midnight.
Time change, then it'll be 3 hours.
You're at midnight right now, right?
Yeah, it's 12:06 a.m. right here.
Yeah. It's 8:06 here now. So, yeah, normally we would start these at 7 o'clock, but because they're so detailed and so informative, and they have a lot of depth to them, meaning it's not just, we just didn't name a fault. Oh yeah, this is Santa Catalina, and then do nothing about it. But we kind of told you where it is, how it connects, and that some of the quakes that have happened, and then the plausibility of the size of quake that can go along this fault. So we've added to the name of a fault. We didn't just give you the name, but we gave you the location and all that other information. And that's what these studies do, and that's kind of what the Rabbit Hole is all about. It's about going a little deeper dive into some of this stuff, and we're building a series, which didn't realize we were doing that. It's just so happens that that's what we're doing. And I'm liking it a lot. And we'll be able to add more to these videos. And once, you're watching it raw, so, and listening to it raw. So there's no, you know, cutting and editing and stuff. So it's trying to get it done right. The new zone areas and connections between different faults. Yeah. So there's a lot to be learned, and we're just now, doing it. And I appreciate you, Canuck. Is there anything you want to add, as closing this evening?
No, just to summarize, they're all capable of big quakes, and some of them we don't know how long ago the last time it happened because they haven't figured that out yet. So they don't know.
Right.
They know what it can do. They just don't know when the last time it did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got to make sure I save this one under research there. That was a very good article.
Yeah, I saved that one for the last because it was kind of connecting all three from Santa Barbara right on down. So I thought that was good.
Right. And again, next Wednesday, we'll talk about the outboard ones, the OCB. This was the ICB or the Intercontinental Borderland faults specific to the Santa Cruz fault, the San Clemente fault, and the San Diego Trough, and the Huntington Beach, and partial of the Palo Verdes and San Pedro Basin. Now, San Pedro Basin has more faults in it, so and as we go north, which will be down the road, we will go north of Los Angeles and work our way up the coast to, and then also talk about the what do you call that one out in the Inland Empire, the shear zone.
Yeah, the shear zone. Yeah,
The shear zone will be probably pretty intense because there are several major fault systems out there, and it goes further than you think, and which is interesting in itself. But yeah, great stuff, bud. Great stuff. I appreciate you, man.
it's interesting stuff.
Yeah, it sure is.
Study for days.
All right. Well,